Star Wars is dead. And believe me, I take no pleasure in saying that. It's been beaten and bloodied so badly, even George Lucas would not be able to recognise it in the coroner's office. And then the corpse dragged outside and beaten more for the world to see.
Stop! He's already dead!
I've been a massive fan of the franchise for almost my entire life. My dad got the VHS Special Edition Christmas 1997, and we stayed up all night watching the whole trilogy. I was utterly blown away by the fantastic galaxy, the compelling characters, and the epic fight between good and evil. A few weeks ago, I was asked by someone what my favourite film was of all time, and after some thought I said Empire Strikes Back. However, things have not looked so good from Star Wars in recent years. In fact, as of this recording, there hasn't been a Star Wars film since 2019, with almost every announced project being quietly shelved. Where's my Taika Waititi Star Wars film, god damn it? I want screaming goats and fart jokes in the middle of a lightsaber battle.
Yes.
The only official cinematic releases are Starfighter coming out in 2027, assuming that doesn't get shelved, and The Mandalorian and Grogu, a spin-off from a TV series. And considering Season 3, I'm not expecting much in the way of quality or box office. But how did it get to be this way? Well, it wasn't any single thing that killed one of the most beloved franchises of all time. It was a series of bad decisions, along with a boneheaded stubbornness to accept any mistakes. So I'm going to be doing a little series called How Star Wars Died, going through the ups and downs of the past 10 years. Let's begin at the, beginning. In May 2011, whilst attending the opening of Star Tours at Disney World, George Lucas was approached by Disney CEO Bob Iger with a proposition for Disney buying all of Lucasfilm and making the new Star Wars trilogy.
I got a bad feeling about this.
This caused something of a conundrum for George, as in the past he stated, and I quote, "I've left pretty explicit instructions that there will be no more..." I can't do this, I'm sorry. "I've left pretty explicit instructions that there not to be any more features. There will definitely be no episodes 7 to 9.
You raised my hopes and dashed them quite expertly, sir. Bravo!
But George had been thinking about retirement for the last few years, and the sort of money Disney could offer would certainly help sweeten the deal. In June 2012, Lucas contacted his former coffee fetcher Kathleen Kennedy and her T-Rex neck to become co-chair at Lucasfilm, explaining his plans to sell Star Wars, and after the sale, she would be in charge. Later that month, Lucas called Iger, and they began negotiations for the sale of Star Wars. And so began 5 months of negotiation between the two parties. On the 30th of October 2012, the acquisition of Lucasfilm by Disney was finalised and publicly announced to much fanfare. Now, shortly before the sale, George actually wrote the outline for a sequel trilogy and sent them to Bob Iger as a little parting gift to help give them a rough idea of where to go. Whilst under no contractual obligation to use this work, both Bob and Kathy said that this outline had a lot of potential and they would seriously consider using it. Liar! They promised to treat the final work of one of the most influential people in cinema history with the respect that it deserves. Now for the final step. Reassure the fans. So Kathleen, her neck, and George had a sit down on YouTube to discuss the future of Star Wars, with Kathy reassuring us all that the life's work of George and the work of many other talented people will be well looked after. After all, they have dozens of books to draw material from, and they will use that treasure trove to its fullest.
What a load of bullshit.
In this interview, you can actually see in George's face the realisation that his life's work is about to be burnt to the ground. The smouldering wreckage used as a foundation for a new Star Wars. I would feel bad for him, but if you sell your entire life's works to Disney, well...
Get what you fucking deserve!
Now that old man Lucas is out, and the PR is done, time to start work on a new trilogy. Kathy's neck put together a team, hired the, at the time, respected director and writer J.J. Abrams, and began working on a plan to ensure the success of one of the biggest film projects of all time. This part was imperative. The future of all Lucasfilm, maybe even all of Disney itself, rested on a clear, coherent sequel trilogy. No stone could be left unturned, no detail too small, no idea wouldn't be given thought and consideration. Just pen, paper, creativity, and hard work to make or break the next chapter of Star Wars. Usually, these big think tanks are kept under lock and key, but I just so happen to have a contact at Disney and have been able to get a picture of the very plan the team managed to write up. Yeah. The first film in this new trilogy would be The Force Awakens, a film which at the time of release was mostly well received by fans and critics. The creators used a balance of nostalgia, mystery boxes, and frankly brilliant marketing to pull the wool over a lot of people's eyes, myself included, and fool fans into believing that it was a lot better than it really was. However, in time, fans saw through the deception and started to see The Force Awakens for what it really was, an empty copy of A New Hope, but worse in every single way. Alright, I've put this part off long enough. Let's now dive into The Force Awakens and see if that old internet theory about the sequels being good after 10 years was true. No, it's fucking not. Till next time, fella. Wait, I have to actually rewatch and review this whole thing? Okay then. Whiskey will be needed, but here we go. It's been 30 years since the fall of the Empire and Anakin bringing balance to the Force. Well, until he didn't. But sadly, all is not well in the galaxy far, far away. There's great turmoil, you see. A totalitarian regime called the First Order has become the major power in the galaxy, led by a dark side Force user and fronted with an army of foot soldiers called Stormtroopers. But not all is lost. There is hope. A small but plucky band of rebels called the Resistance is waging a war against the First Order. The Resistance has recently obtained valuable information that could strike a powerful blow, and one of their leaders, named Poe Dameron, has been tasked with delivering this information to the Resistance secret headquarters. You know, I'm sure I've seen all this in another film before. I must be imagining things. Unfortunately, the First Order has managed to track Poe down to a desert planet called Jakku. Remember Tatooine? I remember. Before Poe can get away, his ship is shot. With his ship destroyed and his chances of escape slim, Poe gives the information to his beeping, smart and lovable droid BB-8 and orders BB-8 to get the information to the headquarters. The First Order ships land, the Stormtroopers engage the local, and out from the door emerges Kylo Ren, a mysterious masked figure dressed in black armour, wielding a red lightsaber, and trained in the dark side of the Force. Oh JJ, clearly your imagination knows no bounds. After a brief battle, the First Order is victorious, and Kylo begins interrogating Poe for information.
So who talks first? You talk first? I talk first?
The old man gave it to you.
It's just very hard to understand you with all the...
Well, this part doesn't go quite the way of A New Hope. Some originality at last. When Vader interrogated the ship's captain, he was terrifying. That being said, having your main villain mocked in his first scene is not the best way to make him intimidating to the audience. During the battle, a lone stormtrooper called FN-2187 freezes up after seeing all the destruction and the death of a fellow stormtrooper, quietly refusing to fire on the civilians, earning him the suspicions of both Kylo and the stormtrooper leader Captain Phasma. Wow, look at that armour. I'm sure she'll play an important part in this film. Elsewhere on the planet of Tatooine, Jakku, force of habit, we are introduced to the main protagonist of the trilogy, Rey Palpatine.
Rey Skywalker.
Nope. A scavenger who goes around crashed old Empire ships to scavenge whatever pieces she can find. Remember the AT-ATs? I remember. Now, I want to clarify right now, because I will be shitting on Rey's character quite a bit in this video. I do generally like Daisy Ridley. She comes across as a very nice person, and while her acting won't be leaving Dame Judi Dench with sleepless nights, she's not a bad actress at all. I've seen far worse than Daisy make it.
I need you to give me the stone.
She was probably blown away with excitement when she first got the role, the star of an entirely new Star Wars trilogy. Unfortunately for Daisy, she was landed with a character even more dull than I am when I actually take my meds.
Who's got the most boring voice?
That'll be me, Ted. Listen, I have an awful dreary, monotonous voice, God help me.
Rey has clearly spent many years on this planet. So after a usual day of scavenging and getting little food for her work, she goes outside and rescues BB-8 from another scavenger who wants to sell him for parts. BB-8 tells her that he needs to get off planet as he's on a mission. So Rey offers to let him stay the night and take him into town tomorrow morning. After bringing Poe back aboard a Star Destroyer, How does JJ think up these clever names? FN2187, now realising he's about to be found out for not fighting, chooses to abandon the First Order and free Poe so they can help each other escape. After all, he has no piloting experience, so it would be unrealistic for him to be able to fly a ship. But we'll return to this point a little later. Well, this is quite something, isn't it? A lone stormtrooper choosing to walk away from the Empire, First Order, and even join up with the good guys. This is a generally good story idea with a lot of potential. Will the Resistance ever be able to fully trust a stormtrooper? How will he cope, fighting against all the people he was raised and trained with all his life? Can he give the Resistance an insight into how the First Order operates? I am very much looking forward to seeing how this plot progresses. Oh, well, the possibilities were intriguing back in 2015. So Poe and FN2187 steal a TIE fighter and fight their way out, with Poe piloting the ship, as he is regarded as the best pilot in the Resistance, and FN2187 operating the guns. Makes sense. They introduce themselves to one another, and Poe gives FN2187 the name Finn. Thank Christ for that, I was fed up with saying the number. Finn wants to escape to another planet to get as far away from the First Order as possible. We'll ignore the fact that TIE fighters are short-range ships with no hyperdrive, so they won't get very far. However, Poe needs to get back to Jakku. I've got to watch that. As the information given to BB-8 was a map leading to the legendary Luke Skywalker. Before they can discuss this any further, however, their ship is shot down and crash lands on Tatooine. Fuck's sake, the other desert planet. We cut now to the surface of Jakku. Hey, I got it right. Where the TIE fighter crashed. Finn is absolutely fine as he was ejected, but Poe is nowhere to be seen. Finn checks out the ship and only finds Poe's jacket. Then the ship sinks into the sand. This definitely seems like a real death and not a cheap fake out. I am 100% certain we will never see Poe again. So Finn grabs the jacket and heads to the nearest town, which just so happens to be the town that Rey and BB-8 are also going to that very morning.
What a coincidence!
What are the odds? No, seriously, of all the places on an entire planet to crash, Finn just so happens to crash within walking distance of the very same town that BB-8 is going to. If there are any mathematicians watching this, do please write in the comments what the odds of this are. I would love to know. After a while, Finn makes it to a town where he sees a BB-8 droid that Poe was talking about. And BB-8 sees Finn with Poe's jacket and tells Rey. And so ensues a misunderstanding and a brief chase, at the end of which Rey beats Finn. Isn't he supposed to be a trained soldier? Would make sense for him to be the fighter of the group. They clear everything up between them. Finn explains the escape and Poe's death. R.I.P. Poe. I'm sure he's definitely dead. The map to Luke Skywalker, and Rey naturally assumes that Finn is with the Resistance. Now, even if Finn doesn't want to admit to being a stormtrooper who's just turned against the First Order, he could say that he's not a Resistance fighter, but is just a friend of Poe's. Keep things vague if needs must. But instead he just goes along with a lie he has absolutely no hope of keeping up. Why? To build some thin veneer of tension, I guess. It doesn't even build tension well though, because Rey is the only character who is not at all suspicious of Finn's story, and he just fesses up to everyone else almost the moment he meets them. A couple of stormtroopers see the three of them together and call in the TIE fighters, so Rey, Finn and BB-8 make their escape to jumping into the nearest ship available, which just so happens to be the Millennium Falcon. Remember the Falcon? I remember. You're seriously telling me that on this dirt poor planet, where everything is stripped down for scrap, nobody's even touched the Falcon? I know everyone mistakes it for junk, but this is a place where actual wrecks are sold for pieces of scrap. Fortunately, Rey, as well as being the fighter, can also fly a ship perfectly.
Seriously, no, don't fuck around.
She's lived most of her life on this small shithole desert of a planet, so how and why she learned to pilot a ship is a complete mystery. Nah, who cares? Let's not think about it. An aerial battle then takes place. It's been 9 whole minutes since the last battle, and if we don't bombard viewers with constant action, they might stop and think. So together, Rey and Finn defeat the TIE fighters. Whoa! Weren't those guys your friends just yesterday? And fly away from definitely not Tatooine. I should have called it that from the start, it's so much easier. Now, a way this team's dynamic could have been balanced out a little better is if Poe and Finn together made it to the town. That way Poe could fly the Falcon. Not only would that give Poe some screen time in this film, but it would also give a better reason for Rey never leaving not Tatooine beyond just, she's waiting for someone.
How about that?
Back aboard the Star Destroyer, some random officer is telling Kylo Ren the news that the droid has escaped from the planet with the help of Finn and a scavenger girl. So first we have Kylo getting mocked by one of the heroes, and now he's throwing a childish temper tantrum. You're not creating a dangerous villain here, JJ. Years ago, I did actually share a place with a guy a bit like this. He would scream and shout in his room over the slightest little thing, like leaving the toothpaste lid off. However, if I went up to him and asked him, is there a problem? Do we need to talk about something? He would instantly stop and say everything is fine. It didn't make him at all intimidating. Just unhinged, childish, and a bit annoying. On the Falcon, Rey is fixing up the damage from the battle. Fuck's sake, she's the mechanic as well. And asks Finn where the Resistance base is. Droid, where's your base? I'm not with the Resistance. I'm not with the Resistance. Once that is all fixed up, the Falcon is boarded by a much larger ship. And through the door burst Han Solo and Chewie, who have been looking for the Millennium Falcon for some time. Wow. In all of the entire galaxy, Han and Chewie just so happen to be within a few minutes of the Falcon and bump into Rey, Finn and BB-8. Even with Han being able to track the Falcon, he still must have been really, really close. Again, any mathematician watching this, please do let me know in the comments. I would really love to know the odds of this one. Harrison Ford grumbles his way onto the Falcon and they all get to know one another. I'm here because Disney drove a truck full of money to my front door. You're the Han Solo. I'm not with the Resistance. I don't care. They ask for Han's help getting BB-8 to the base, but he wants no part of it, as he's just a simple smuggler now. Remember how in the original trilogy, Han began as a selfish smuggler and crook who only helped the heroes because he was being paid? But then, over time, he grew closer to the group and started to care for his friends, and by the end became a leader and hero. Well, that's all gone now. He's back to being a selfish smuggler. Only now he's an old, miserable failure, like so many protagonists these days. Before anything more can happen, two different gangs, who Han owes money to, both board the ship, and the monsters that Han has gathered for a job, called Rathars, break out of their cells.
I got a bad feeling about this.
He said the line. Remember the line? I remember. The Rathars are basically giant testicles with tentacles, and they look utterly ridiculous. But they are also one of the few things in this film that's original, so full points for that. As it's been 10 whole minutes since our last action sequence, it's time for another one. Everyone's running around, and it's all so fast and nonsensical, I struggle to keep up. Suffice it to say, Han, Chewie, Rey, Finn and BB-8 escape on the Falcon.
Compressor. Try transferring auxiliary power to secondary tank.
What'd you do?
I bypassed the compressor.
Naturally, Rey already knows more about the Falcon than Han. He was only captain of that ship for decades. Rey's been on that ship for half an hour. That's 25 minutes more than she needs. Fucking film. Back aboard the Star Destroyer, Kylo Ren and General Hux, who is definitely not a shit Tarkin copy, are having a suspiciously familiar video meeting with Supreme Leader Snoke, who is definitely not a shit Palpatine copy. Remember the meeting in Empire? I remember. Ginger Tarkin wants to unleash the secret weapon that they have been working on to wipe out the Republic, and Emperor Smeagol gives the go-ahead. We also get a little bit of rivalry between Ginger Tarkin and Kylo. That would be an interesting dynamic if Ginger Tarkin and Kylo were competent villains. Emperor Smeagol tells Kylo that there has been an awakening in the Force, and Kylo too has sensed it. What do they mean by an awakening? Who knows? Who cares? It could be Rey, it could be Luke, or anything really. It's just a nice little mystery box courtesy of J.J. Abrams. Thanks, J.J. Moron. Emperor Smeagol tells Kylo that the droid is now on the Falcon, in the possession of his father. Are you ready for this one, viewer?
Han Solo.
Elsewhere, the Falcon and crew have landed on some planet, I can't remember the name of this one, and I am not rewinding the film. Han gives both Rey and Finn a gun each, and offers Rey a job with him. But Rey refuses, as she's got to get back to not Tatooine. Wow. Rey is so popular that even Han, a man who does not warm to people easily, already wants her to join the crew. Han then takes the group to someone called Maz, who can get them to the Resistance base. Maz's bar has music playing and an assortment of unsavoury characters. Please, stop, JJ. Your limitless imagination is just too much for me to handle. Maz asks for Chewie, who I honestly forgot was in this film, as he does nothing, and they all chat for a bit. Han, you have to get back to Leia. When is my check clear? I'm not with the Resistance. A good story. For another time. Finn then tries to leave and finally tells Rey the shocking truth. He's not with the Resistance. Rey then hears voices and buggers off downstairs to find Luke and Anakin's old lightsaber, the Youngling Slayer 5000. How did Maz find this?
A good question. For another time.
This will never be brought up again. Good old JJ and his mystery boxes. Maz tells Rey that her parents left and want fuck all to do with her, but she is destined to take up the lightsaber, like Luke before, and Rey runs off. You know, if hearing voices is a sign of the Force, then I'm just going to start introducing myself to people as Grandmaster Loquacious from now on. Meanwhile, in space, Ginger Tarkin is on the newly built superweapon, the Starkiller, which is like the Death Star but bigger, so therefore better. Well, at least the name's original. We've never had anything in Star Wars called Starkiller before. He's given a speech about the weapon destroying the Republic and making the First Order the only authority in the galaxy. Why does Hollywood seem to think that having your villains scream and cry over everything makes them intimidating? The definitely not Death Star then fires and can destroy several planets at once without moving. How the laser moves faster than the speed of light, yet people are able to see it, I don't know. How does this laser not burn up the atmosphere, as Starkiller is a converted planet with breathable oxygen? Again, don't know. Yeah! The First Order then arrive at Maz's bar for BB-8. How did the First Order know where they are? Some guy told them. So another action scene starts. Keep running around. The audience was starting to stop and think, and we can't have that.
Go! I need a weapon! You have one!
Yeah, Han gave you a gun 10 minutes ago. Do these writers not bother to even look at their own scripts?
Blah, 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 blah. Finished.
The First Order win the battle and capture the group. But then the Resistance arrives to save the group. How did the Resistance know where they are? Some guy told them. Genius writing there, JJ. The Resistance squad is led by Poe. I was so sure he was really dead. Whilst the Resistance managed to chase away the First Order, Kylo Ren captures Rey in the process. Such raw emotion. Hearing that will never, never get old. Leia and C-3PO arrive at the scene, and 3PO now has a red arm, for no reason other than toy sales. Leia and Han talk about their son Ben, aka Kylo, then they all head to the Resistance headquarters, where BB-8 and Finn reunite with Poe. Now Finn and Poe are BFFs somehow.
What? Did we just become best friends? Yup!
And Finn needs the Resistance help, because Rey has been taken to Starkiller Base. She could have been taken to Kylo's Star Destroyer that you were both on at the beginning of the film, but never mind. He does have information on the base that he can share with the Resistance. Oh yeah, and the map BB-8 has to Luke is incomplete, and R2-D2 is in low power mode. R2 definitely doesn't have the rest of the map though. On Starkiller Base, Rey is imprisoned and about to be interrogated by Kylo. Oh wow, she is aboard the base. That's fortunate. Kylo takes off his mask, killing even more of the character's mystique, and tries to use the Force to read Rey's mind and see the map.
That's not how the Force works.
Believe me, that clip will get a lot of use throughout this series. Force users could sense feelings, but a picture-perfect memory?
Seriously, now don't fuck around.
However, Kylo fails, and instead, Rey reads his mind, sensing that he's afraid he'll never be as powerful as his grandfather, Darth Vader.
Well, duh.
Remember Vader? I remember. It makes you wonder just what Kylo Ren's training is like, if Rey can already beat him at the mind-reading parts of the Force. Kylo and Ginger Tarkin then report to Emperor Smeagol, Rey can resist Kylo as she's too powerful. The Resistance have the map and could find Luke Skywalker any minute now. Things on the whole do not look good for our villains. So now their best chance is to use Starkiller Base to blow up the Resistance, which they have just found the location of by tracking a ship. That's all the explanation we get. They've tracked a ship. During this talk, Rey is being guarded by one single guard, because Kylo's a fucking moron who's never seen Austin Powers before.
Well, you're gonna put him in a cell with one inept guard and they'll escape.
And she uses the mind trick to get the guard to let her out. She's so awesome. We could give Finn his moment by not running away and rescuing her, but she's able to rescue herself within a few minutes. The Resistance are then going through the plans for Starkiller Base. Fortunately, Finn just so happened to have blueprints on him. It's bigger than the Death Star, so again, better. And uses the sun to power its weapon. I could talk for a full hour solid on the stupidity of this thing alone, but for now I'll just comment on how ineffective a weapon design that is, having to absorb an entire star every time it's needed. The plan is the Resistance use small fighters to blow up the base's weak points, causing a chain reaction, and yeah, we've been there, done that twice already. But first, the shields need to be taken down. So Han, Chewie and Finn fly the Falcon at hyperspeed into the base to get past the shields.
What?
Hyperspeed is faster than the speed of light. By the time you see something, it's already gone by. How can anyone possibly fly a ship through the shield and then stop before crashing into the ground? If there are any physicists watching this, well, you know the drill, comments please. The group grab Captain Phasma, look, she's made another appearance, and get her to turn off the base's shields. So much for being dedicated to the cause, didn't take much at all. Then after that, Han, Chewie and Finn meet up with Rey.
Really? Is it? Well, lucky us.
Again, what are the odds? A planet-sized base, and they just so happen to bump into each other. Mathematician, odds, comments please. The Resistance fighters arrive and begin their attack. And although the shields are down, they just aren't doing enough damage to the entrance of the weak point. So Han, Chewie, Rey and Finn, who just so happen to have a large bag of explosives on them, go back to blast a hole in the base from the inside, so the ships can start a chain reaction. They place the explosives around and Han sees Kylo, so goes to confront his son. Han tells Kylo that Emperor Smeagol is just using him for his power. The guy loses every confrontation in this film. Doesn't strike me as very powerful. Kylo feels conflicted between the dark and the light, but stabs Han with his lightsaber and throws him aside.
I can't watch anymore.
If this isn't a metaphor for the lack of respect Kathleen Kennedy has for Star Wars, then I don't know what is. Chewbacca shoots Kylo, blows the bombs, and an injured Kylo meets Rey and Finn outside for a final confrontation. Kylo force pushes Rey aside and now Finn is alone with him. Does Finn give in to his fear and run away again? Or does he stand and fight against a vastly superior opponent to protect someone he cares for, despite knowing he has little chance of winning? Finn grabs the lightsaber and fights Kylo with everything he's got. However, he does lose the fight badly and almost gets killed in the process. He is, after all, a complete novice, fighting someone with years of training. This fight between Kylo and Finn is definitely one of the best parts of the entire sequel trilogy. After that, Rey wakes up, sees Finn injured and grabs Luke's lightsaber with the Force, challenging Kylo. Meanwhile, the Resistance fighters see the damage the bombs have made to the base and fly in to finish the job, causing damage and a chain reaction that starts destroying this base. Kylo and Rey continue their fight whilst the base is starting to fall apart around them. At first it looks like Kylo has the better. Again, he has been doing this for years. But after offering to train Rey, because that's a thing bad guys need to say in Star Wars, Rey taps into the Force and just bullies Kylo, beating him up and then slicing his face. So much for experience. Now, I'm sure there will be people in the comments that say, Kylo only lost because he was injured and conflicted about killing Han. Well, earlier in the film, Rey already beat Kylo with superior Force powers in the mind-reading scene, and Kylo was neither injured nor conflicted at that time. He just straight up loses to someone who only discovered she was Force sensitive a minute ago. Before Rey can finish the job, the ground cracks and separates right between the two of them. What are the odds? If there are any geologists, oh, I can't anymore. The base blows up, Rey and Finn get into the Falcon with Chewie, Ginger, Tarkin and Kylo are told to evacuate, and the good guys save the day. Hooray! Back at the Resistance base, Leia completely ignores Chewie, which is just hysterical, and goes to hug Rey over Han's death.
What the hell was that?
Why? You don't know each other! Leia has known Chewie for years, and Chewie has been Han's best friend for even longer than that. He was probably best man at your wedding. R2 then decides to just wake up because it's near the end of the film, and the script can't think of another way to finish the map. So yeah, it turns out R2 does have the rest of the map to Luke. So now they can go find him.
Good job.
Rey, Chewie and R2 go off in the Falcon to find Luke. Wait, Rey's in the captain's seat. Does she own the Falcon now? Damn, Chewie's really been screwed over today. Wookiee lives matter, you know. They arrive on the island and at the top of the mountain is Luke, standing there, dramatically. I guess they didn't want to pay Mark Hamill for speaking lines. So that's the end of A New Hope ripoff. J.J. Abrams really was on full form with this one. The member berries, the mystery boxes, the blatant ripping off better films, the way characters just run around shouting like idiots, the frequent nonsensical action scenes, it's all just so bad robot. The writing is atrocious. There's no cause and effect. Stuff just happens. There are frequent contrivances to get the film moving forward, and the script has tons of and then writing. Like for example the bar fight. They clearly just wanted to have a fight between the First Order and Resistance, but couldn't think of how to make it happen naturally. The writers just thought, how do we get the First Order to know where they have to go? They have a spy in the bar. Okay, great. Now, how does the Resistance know where they have to go? They have a spy in the bar. Fuck it, that'll do. One of the biggest problems in this film is Rey Palpatine.
Rey Skywalker.
I'm rising above this. She's overpowered to ridiculous levels. She never needs help, never needs to learn any lessons. Instantly loved by every good character. She's just the best at everything. She's perfect. And that is a big issue. There have been many overpowered characters in fiction, but typically those are measured out with other issues, such as Anakin being disliked by fellow Jedi, mentally unstable and easily manipulated. However, that's not all. Typically in a team, each character has strengths and weaknesses. One character may be the most powerful member in the team, such as Luke Skywalker, Aang or Superman, but they are not the very best at everything. If they were, there would be no need for the rest of the team. I think the best way I can sum this up is with the original Pokemon games. In Pokemon Red and Blue, you build up a team of 6 Pokemon to complete the game. And you can also battle your friends if one of you had a link cable. God, I'm so old. All Pokemon had strengths and weaknesses. Some were fast and effective against water types. Others were strong but slow and weak to water types. This means you had to balance your team. It made for a very fun game with lots of difficult but satisfying battles. But then enter Mewtwo. By far the most powerful Pokemon in the game. He had perfect stats in every area. He was fast, had tight defense, strong attack, and no weaknesses, and also the power to heal himself. As cool as he was, it meant that if you got Mewtwo, then that's it. The game was no longer a challenge. People online have done playthroughs where they gave themselves a Mewtwo at the start and didn't lose a single battle. It made fighting your friends a waste as well, as one Mewtwo could easily solo an entire team. It eventually got to the point where there was a strict no Mewtwo rule every time you played together. Basically, he was so powerful and lacking in any weakness that there was no point in having other Pokemon in your team. They were just space fillers. Combined with the fact that the writers didn't bother to write Rey any personality, other than she's just the bestest at everything ever.
How come you're so great?
Because I'm me.
The story with Finn is this film's highlight. His journey from scared stormtrooper running away to a man willing to risk his life to save a friend is such a good character arc. The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker completely ruin his character and make him a bad joke. But that is not this film's fault, so it's only fair to give J.J. Abrams and John Boyega the credit they deserve for this one. The villains are a complete waste. Kylo Ren could have had promise, inheriting both the best and worst traits of the Skywalker family, but the film does almost everything possible to ruin him. They make him dumb, emotionally fragile. They take away his mystique, and he loses his fight at the end. This means there's now no threat from him. The heroes don't need to grow stronger in order to defeat him, because they already have. So where do you go with the next 2 films? Hux is the same. Superficially, he's like Tarkin, but a stupid, screaming, crying version of Tarkin. But now we come to this film's biggest mistake. Han Solo. They regressed his character, making him a depressed, bumbling old man, then just killed him off for no real reason. He didn't sacrifice himself to save others, or die in battle. He just stood there, doing nothing. It also led to a problem with the sequels that to this day people still complain about. We didn't get to see Luke, Han and Leia on screen together. And due to the sad passing of Carrie Fisher, we never will. I think that sums up how much of a wasted opportunity this all was. Till next time, fellow lunatics.